right, so welcome to the Federation X podcast running on tangents. This week, I have a couple of new guests and some interesting topics, and we're live streaming for the second time, which I think is hopefully going to be as successful as it was last time. At least this time, we're not all sitting in the dark. It was tough to see Price last time. It was like he was hiding in a closet somewhere. So wonderful. I'm excited that we're going to get to do this again, and we'll find out if anybody's following along live this time, because as with last time, we can see the comments that come up on the live feed, and we will have an opportunity to speak to them or answer them. Certainly didn't stop me from throwing some pot shots at my pal Bagel Guy last time, who I think is doing a competing live stream, but not nearly as interesting as this one. So hey, before we launch in this week, and before I even get to the guests that are on the podcast, I want to talk about what happened since we did one a little while ago. Suddenly, some people started posting on the Federation X boards. It was disjointed, it was chaotic, but it was also a little bit interesting. We haven't seen this in a consistent way in any kind of period of time. We saw a lot of characters show up. We saw Our Father make a return and tease potentially the return of Samite. We saw Johnny XS post, which, I mean, we haven't seen that in 14 years. We saw Johnny Rude post and got introduced to the idea that Johnny Rude has a kid out there somewhere. We saw a post from Acid Ed. We saw a new character, terrific Tony Robes II. Alan Scott, of course, in response to Johnny Rude, and we did see a post from still dead and trapped in hell, Max Entropy. So I was excited all about all of that. Max Entropy, working his way through the hierarchy in hell. I think Bill just refusing to give up, selling that he's dead, and honestly, Max's career has been dead for a long time. So you're playing it right spot on the money, Bill. Our Father, showed up right after the Ed post, picked him up outside of a courtroom. No surprise, Ed was being charged with felonious assault in multiple cases. I think that's completely on brand and on character. Rude is running some kind of alt-right wing podcast video stream, and his son is completely the other end of the scale and hates his father, and apparently is an Alan Scott mark. There's no way that could go poorly. I think the piece that excited me the most when I logged in today after all of that is that Lars, the commissioner, has shown up and thrown a card together without asking anybody or telling anybody. And suddenly we have matches. I have no idea if they will actually turn into anything or if it'll be a complete meltdown, but it's news. And so we thought we would start the show by talking about it. Now, one of the other things I want to talk about before we get going, about a week and a half ago, Johnny Rude, you guys will have known him from the podcast, as Jordan said to me, hey, are we committed to the name of the podcast? Do we really like running on tangents? Is that the name we want to stick with, or do we want to rebrand it? And so he and Price, that's Johnny XS, and I talked about it because we're the three guys who did the very first podcast over 8 years ago. And we threw a whole bunch of things around. I think they fell in love with the idea of doing a podcast called The Real Fake Internet Wrestling Podcast by Adequate Chuckleheads. I don't know that I'm quite as sold as them, but I'll throw this out to you. Do you like the idea of changing or rebranding the podcast? And if you do you like the name that they landed on and liked? Do you have something else that you would suggest? Or do you think running on tangents really fits the bill for us? One of the reasons that's a question right now is our friend Mike, who you saw in the interview of Terror, has the ability to make us like an introduction video. And he has started working on one. I'm super excited to see the outcome of it. And obviously we need to give him a static name. We can't get him to build a video and then go, oh yeah, no, we changed the name of the podcast. So if we're gonna make a change, now's the time to talk about it. And we're just doing this for kicks and for our community, especially after all these years. So if you have thoughts on that, drop them in the comments down below. Make sure you let us know. One of the questions I'm going to ask the two gentlemen who've joined me today as we get going is, we've seen lots of comebacks, lots of attempts to rebuild feds, lots of, hey, Rassel died and then Rassel was reborn, Federation X died, Federation X was reborn. And we've seen the angles that commissioners write to kind of explain what happened and how they come back or how they are reborn. We're going to ask the question, is there an angle left that one of these two gentlemen, both of them have been commissioners, one of them to much esteem, one of them I have regularly crapped on for his time as a commissioner, but both of them have, all of us have a big history of being commissioners. Is there an angle left that we think would create some creative fire and maybe interest some people? And yeah. So we'll get to that. But before we do, you can see it up on the screen. I have AlisterFiend, who many of you know as Paul, and I have Lars Lasher, the man who helped me found Federation X with our friend Bruce years ago. Tim, who's here, the brewmaster himself, which I can't believe we haven't turned into a character already. And gentlemen, why don't you give everybody the quick introduction and make sure they know why they should know you from all the games we've played.
Go ahead, Paul.
Oh, gee, thanks, Tim. So anyways, most everybody knows me as AlisterFiend. I've run that same character since C-Slam, like third month that site was even up. He went through some iterations, but he's basically always been an asshole. It's what you see is what you get. So I went through what? C-Slam. When C-Slam ended, I did not go to C-Brawls or whatever that thing was. Didn't go to Ring Wars. Didn't go to WDN when it first started. I actually didn't even go to WDN until Tim and Vigilante, Jim, hit me up and said, hey, we're going to do this and we're going to do something you want in. I said, okay, I'm in.
That doesn't surprise me. What about you, Tim?
So, I'm Lars. Tim started this whole kind of dial-up internet thing back in 1996, 97. I think it was.
Right. Yeah. Right.
So it was like this thing. It was like coming soon, kind of a thing. Sign up now. And I was always interested in kind of online role play at that time, but nothing was really out there that was substantial. So signed up, messed around for a little bit, and it started out with a character called Smash Mouth. And I think 3-4 months in, won the USOB or whatever, just out of fluke, kind of a thing. And then they started expanding in federations and stuff. So I like one of the very first indie jobs, and kind of went up from there to the CWO. Was in the CWO with the guys that kind of started Blood Brothers and the 160 Proof, and then got promoted to the ECW or to the CCW, and then later the ECCW, the Elite CCW. But basically, when I moved from the CWO, we were kicking ass. We were beating all the nationals around, and I just brought all the guys over, and we kind of just continued that, and really created a monster there. So that's really my big push in CyberSlam. When that went down, I tell you what, I mean, it was cool. I was actually getting paid like $150 a month to do admin work on a website that it was like entertainment, kind of fun to do. And I think there was like 2 or 3 payments there, and then Scoops shit the bed there. And the whole internet thing kind of hit. And, we all took a little hiatus and moved on to Cyber Brawls and Ring Wars and, here and there, but nothing really substantial ever hit. But it wasn't until Wrestle started to get a little bit more traction with things and a little bit more activity. And we all kind of jumped in, when Paul mentioned that kind of rounded up the troops the best we could and just started to give a go. And that's where I met you. Jeff, right when I was basically took over in Indy, and we were just kind of playing around.
Yeah, that's right. And so it's interesting. A couple of funny memories for me. So I have memories of you that you don't have of me because I played an alt in one of your feds in C-Slam. I remember wanting the Smash Mouth title and not at the time realizing that I assume it was named after your first character. And not really having a knowledge of that. And then when we crossed paths in Wrestle, Bruce and I were like, we came to your fed, and I don't think you really had a good knowledge of us.
No.
And put us on the card, and I kind of was like, oh, look, we're way down on the card. That's a mistake. Like and Bruce and I remember we lit up a match, like really lit up a match. And in your write-up, you were really good. You said like, hey, I've got all these vets here. You guys should be taking lessons from whoever these guys are. Like they have really killed this match. Yeah. Good. And that led to great things. Like we had
that whole mixture of talent, because that's when we started to really get a handle on who Bruce was at the time, and really get a chance to really truly play and learn how Bruce played. And it's Bruce. I'll tell you what, man. I mean, we could do a whole show on Bruce, but he spun off so many tag teams that were just outstanding and phenomenal and fun to be around. Just to even be a reader of them. So that was really fun to see that intermix. And he joined the Blood Brothers, and him and Vidge, and him and Alister, and him and Mike played a huge factor in the entertainment value of what we did back then. Yeah.
They were so entertaining. And I remember Bruce saying to me, hey, what makes this work is that I'm going to join the Blood Brothers and you're not. And this is going to get unfriendly. And I was like, I'm down. Like, let's do this. And the Blood Brothers were on such a good roll in those days. Yeah. And there was such a strong dynamic. And do you remember, the bigger angle where we decided to roll it into the urban legends? And it was like this. Okay, so now we clearly know we're not friends, but we have like this unified cause thing going on, and just the dynamic of playing that was really a blast. Like it was such a good time.
You know what I love the most about that time is that everybody was screaming for us to go up higher. At the time. A month after month, we were just having a blast. It was like maybe a 3-4 month period, and they were like, dying for effort and activity elsewhere in the majors and stuff, and we were just we're having too much fun. It's good.
There was a super cool element to that for us to be like, there isn't a major that can hold a candle to what's going on here. That was great. Totally agree.
So anyway, the actual first iteration of that was the Band of Brothers, where Diggzy first joined in with us, because that was the group. Lars, if you remember, you were actually commissioning the indie fed that we all decided to go to.
Right.
Yeah. Tim not only had the commissioner, he had Lasher. We were in the same fed, because we had there were people complaining because Tim was the commissioner and he had a strong character in the fed.
Nobody who can play worries about that stuff. Who worries about that stuff? People who can't play.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had to commit and swear to everything that's holy that I would never sign a title to him or whatever.
Who was worried about that? And like I don't. Has anybody ever?
Well,
really
I'll tell you what. I mean, who was worried about it was everybody on my ass.
Everybody
that ran Wrestle is who was worried about it. Mainly the the ISOGs and the Burnts and of course Eric was their mouthpiece there for a little bit. So
yeah. Well, Eric was in our set.
Eric is the king of let me sneak my own character into my fed. So you shouldn't have been saying a word.
Yeah.
I see that Price is watching live as we go. So let's talk some smack.
So am I. And Price can suck a dick.
Listen, don't get too angry. That is the best question. If Ask XS was on this episode, the question would be: which side
I was on in the Civil War? Really?
That's right. Yeah, that's fantastic. Well done. You can count on Price to come up with something like that.
Yeah.
All right. So, hey, great origins and how all of us cross paths. And of course, Alister and I cross paths way back in C-Slam. And I've told the story, right? He became the commissioner in my Fed. And let me tell you, that went sideways really quickly, right, Al?
No comment.
Yeah, that's right.
It's almost as classic as giving Gino his own Fed, right? I mean, or excess.
Listen, on this call, there are two people who had a vote and could have stopped it and didn't.
Yeah, that's true.
Guilty.
And I'm not one of them.
That's right. You take no heat for this one, so that's good news. Oh, I'm so entertained. All right. And good news, we've got a couple other people watching. We're hearing live from Bill, which is great, and live from
Maximum Michael Gold. Welcome to the show.
That's right. Always happy to see MMG show up. We all landed at a specific point in Federation X, and while this show is not, I mean, it's the Federation X podcast. We started while we were in Federation X, but it really is about the bigger game. But one of the questions I think is always really interesting, and here are two guys with very different stories on this. How did you first come to Federation X? So for Tim, like, I don't want to tell the story, but it's our story. So why don't you tell it from your perspective, because you were there on day one.
Yeah, so it was kind of, we were, Jeff and I had pretty much did everything that we wanted to do and wrestle, and we were just kind of spinning our wheels a little bit, and we were talking on the side about what we, kind of where we wanted to go. We knew we wanted to do a bigger picture and with something a little bit larger, and we had all these people that were very loyal to that kind of brand and that mentality, and they wanted more, and we were just kind of holding on hope that something would happen, or we would happen across something else, something different. And the indie, or the secondary, I don't know what they called it at the time. It wasn't indie wrestle, but it was the second site for wrestle, where you could basically pay your own cost and run your own Fed the way you wanted to run it. Right. On the old engine. They would keep the old engine running, and then they would maintain the new engine and keep it going and going and going. But the deal was, you were going to get no upgrades to the old engine, but they made money off of it.
That was perfect.
Which is fine, fine. We could manipulate it into half role play, half sim. It worked out perfectly. And what happened was, they created their own monster in allowing us to do it. But they also should have stopped after that first month and realized they had something that they should have capitalized on, because we just basically took over all their activity, and we were the hated people after that, and there was just no other way it was gonna happen around it. So yeah, I mean, after that, we were just we were bound and determined to get burned. It was just a matter of how long we could go, and we went pretty far. I was actually surprised they didn't shut us down after a couple months.
Well, I think it's fair to say that we probably flipped them from being like, they were excited for us. There was no animosity on day zero. We started doing a marketing campaign to like, I mean, I don't know about the rest of you. Like, my life has been business and operating businesses and brand building and stuff for ages. So we went to work on that in 60 days before the launch of the Fed, and had, mass mailers and like signatures on guys who were posting in Rassle and like all this stuff.
I mean, at that time, you and I were doing it for what, 8 years? Yep. 6-8 years. We had tons of contacts, tons of people that we needed to talk to, and we were going to push the envelope there, and that was what FedEx was all about, pushing the envelope, flipping the script. And you know, I'm not going to toot our own horns here, but we changed how things were being handled.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, for the better, I think.
I feel very confident that they went from like, oh, we love this for you guys, and you guys are great guys, to we hate you guys by the end of day one that it was open.
Yeah, because they didn't have the subscribership on that side of it. They just had us paying them one fee.
Right.
They didn't have anybody paying lottery tickets or any of that. They didn't have revenue other than just they you know, they could, I guess they could have came back and upped the rate, and we would have been like, fine, whatever, I don't care. We'll get it one way or the other. But it very, very, very quickly became a thorn in their side, month after month of us just whooping their ass in activity.
That's 100% the case.
Yeah.
And before I jump over to Alister and ask him, you know, how did he first land there? Let's take a second and acknowledge that there's a lot of chatter going on. Bill's commenting like, hey, there was no ATM pouring in Federation X. And that was appeal for some people, right? Like that, for sure, there were people who looked up and said, wait, the biggest title I can win can't be bought by somebody. I want to come and play in that world. I think they missed their window to see Federation X in the first week and come to Tim and I and say, screw Federation X. Why don't you guys take this over? Like, what does it look like to have you guys just roll that approach out across Wrestle? I think they instead of making us friends, they made us enemies, and it was entirely their choice.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the inner details of that, so I mean, I don't want to. And I know we're great friends with Eric. I don't know what was going on there. You know, maybe he was trying to get them to see that light, maybe. But it's a business decision, and they made it, and we did our thing. So.
And we did it well, so well that eventually AlisterFiend showed up in Federation X. Tell us how, Paul. What was the, like, other than you know, Lars being there and so many of the guys that you knew being there, like, how did you land for the first time? And do you remember that moment that somebody was like, hey, you need to come play here?
So I knew you guys were starting it, obviously. Tim let me know the minute this stuff started going down. I was still in the middle of doing some stuff in Wrestle, and it's might be because I'm old, might be because I'm slow, Jason. But I couldn't try and run in both places at the same time.
Yeah.
Not something I'm good at, which is why generally I wouldn't run more than one character at the same time. Why I stuck with the same character at the same time. So when things started to get kind of really crappy at Wrestle, and I knew that all the guys, 1965. Okay. 2 years before I was born, but all right.
Price is going to keep throwing punches on. Make sure you call him out. How would he know? He was only active for 4 days in the last 12 years. So,
yeah, this may be true, but I just wanted to let Price know that I honestly hope that Haley died from toxic shock and passes on whatever to Gino.
I mean, I think we all hope that Gino gets whatever Haley has.
It's already happened many times over.
So we talked a little bit about it. So it's, you know, one of the questions is, how do you land in FedEx? How do we cross paths? And I think we've hit all of that stuff. I think, and I know I called it out at the beginning, it's always really important to me to say this. Tim and I didn't do it alone. Bruce was one of the founding people in building Federation X. You know, the three of us, we talked a lot in those days and spent a lot of time. You know, Tim and I, in the middle of the night, one night, phoned Bruce, and I mean the middle of the night, because we were out partying and Bruce wasn't there. And the dumbass rolled out of bed and answered the phone and sat on the phone with a couple of drunk idiots in Chicago for a little while. And the next year decided, rather than getting the phone call, to get on a plane and be one of the drunk idiots in Chicago. So we can never forget that he played a huge role in the creation of Federation X. And even when he was done and had moved on to ESPN and writing had become his life and was no longer how he played games or spent his social time, was still really loyal to Federation X and to the players and friends that he had made. When I competed in the very first King of the Cage, I was looking for like a hook, something unexpected in that last match with Storm. And I reached out to Bruce and said, Alan started the very first time Alan ever appeared. He was Lane Flack's tag team partner. I need Lane to show up in this match. And I don't think Bruce had posted in like 6 years. And he was like, done. Tell me when you want me to post. And he showed up. And he took the time to read the boards and pay attention. And when I said to him, like, hey, I really just want to bury Storm, he was like, I'm in. So, you know, let's never forget that he's a big part of how fun that Fed was and getting it off the ground. And it was awesome that he was there for it.
Absolutely. Bruce was kind of the glue that kept everything together, honestly. And if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have had some of the great ideas that we came out with ready to go. I mean, it's not like we just had it, you know, the next day. We threw it all together. We planned and worked out the details of all of it. It was phenomenal. Yeah.
And hey, just like a reminder, just like the Smash Mouth title way back in C-Slam was named for your first character. For those of you who proudly talk about your run as Superstar Champion, the Superstar title was named after Diggzy Brown, right? He was the Superstar Diggzy Brown. Yep. And that was Bruce. We named that title for great role players after him. And man, there's a good reason for that. And lots of you have carried that belt with pride. You know, Storm talks at great length about his incredible run with that all the way through the King of Wrestling. He carried a belt that we named after Diggzy Brown, and he did it, you know, a great service. And Stan Daniels won it, and like so many players carried that belt and deserved it. Eve Riley carried it for ages, and like some great writers. Johnny Rude had his hands on it, and you know, all of that goes back to him. Yeah, man, we certainly miss him. So let's talk, because we talked about this, you know, earlier, you know, all the great tag teams he was in, and that really leads us around to tag teams. And Bruce was like me. He loved tag teams. He loved being in them. He loved having partners. He loved the dynamic of the characters. Even when he could have just been a solo star all the time, he was happy to be like,
I like finding somebody that could carry me.
That's right. He was your Strife, right, XS? Because we know you got carried. And so, like, this is for sure a topic that would have been near and dear to him. So let's talk. Who was your favorite tag team partner, guys? Like, you played with lots of tag teams. Some of them worked great. Some of them didn't work out, but everybody has a partner that they were like, man, it was just such a good time. Who was it?
Go ahead.
All right, I'll go first. All right, so
Mr. Tag Team himself.
Evidently, that's where things went. I was in lots of tag teams from C-Slam all the way to the end. My first real tag team partner was Vigilante. That's why we ran together forever. However, not my favorite tag team partner. He's a great tag team partner, but my favorite tag team partner, hands down, was run by the guy who was also my biggest nemesis when I was in C-Slam. That's right. Maximum Michael Gold is the best tag team partner anybody could ever have. Even if that stupid little match luchador that I had to kill was run by the same guy.
So let me ask the question, because I got to see only a snippet of MMG, and I regret that. I really thought he was great in the window I saw, but I saw him when he was like dying out in his post counts, and so I was only seeing little snippets.
Jeff, he's in my top 5.
Yeah.
as a player with all the characters involved. Definitely top 5.
So much positive feedback. Yeah. So Paul, what about him as a tag team partner made him so great?
Todd is a fantastic role player and can push you in so many directions. And I say this from experience because in the CCW with Tim as our commissioner, I think Mash Jobber and AlisterFiend probably fought 4 times a month on cards, over titles, not over titles. Alister absolutely hated the masked man. Feeling, I'm sure, was absolutely neutral. I mean, Todd is one of the best guys I've ever known. We got together really.
Todd's a pretty dynamic writer, right?
Yeah, Todd has also confessed in the live stream chat, though, that Alister was paid for this endorsement. So I don't know how much.
Yeah. Todd's been drinking, obviously.
Listen, I just want to clarify, Todd. I can give you a VIN number if you want to transfer to me. I can endorse you on a regular basis. This podcast is fully for sale. I don't know what to tell you.
I'm not endorsing because I damn near quit playing when MMG just dropped off the face of the earth.
It's tough to lose a good.
He was my tag team partner. We both moved to another Fed when the Band of Brothers decided to break up and we went to all of the major Feds in WVN.
Yep.
And Todd and I moved together, and then something happened, and Todd kind of dropped off, and I almost just kind of stopped playing because I had lost my tag team partner. I actually wound up tagging with Philly Fats because we were in Keebler's Fed. How Alister wound up in that Fed, I think I only went because Todd was going, because that Fed was definitely not my cup of tea.
I get you.
Too much crazy stuff, way too many AOV characters in that Fed.
I get it. So let's jump over. Tim, what about you? Who is the tag team partner?
You know, I didn't really get a chance to truly play the game a whole lot and just truly focus on playing. But the short times that I did, long enough to actually have a tag team partner and make a good run. You know, Diggzy was there for a long time. We had a pretty good 2 to 3 month run. He also, you know, swapped every 3 months. He'd be either tagging with Alister, he'd be tagging with Vidge, he'd be tagging with Ov. And those renditions are some of my favorite tag partners, by the way. So I mean, you can't discount the man chowder, and you can't discount the pepper steaks.
The pepper steaks.
Well, I mean, nobody understands the pepper steaks, but it was an internal joke between IceHog and us getting involved in a out of character argument as far as who really truly won the T3 SOB that year. Yeah. But Jim and Bruce took it and lit it in another different level, and it just kind of continued with the man chowder stuff. Other than Diggzy, I mean, Ov. You know, I ran with Ov for a long time, and Mike and I are really good friends. And I tell you what, the most fun in a set of little short amount of period, whenever we came back and started to, you know, we came back in from like not playing for like 6 months to a year. Mm-hmm. I got a hold of Randy, and we decided to come into a major as masked characters. Yeah. And we were the masked invaders, and damn near took the place down. Love it. I had so much fun with that, just being able to get Randy in his true form, because I was never able to get, you know, I'm in FedEx or whatever playing, I can never, you know, Randy's dance card is full. right?
Yep.
His name is slotted to like some of the best tag teams ever written. That's fine. I can play second fiddle. That's fine. But to get Randy at his finest when he's only got that to worry about, amazing. The Masked Invader stuff was killer, and we were just very, very close to winning that T3 SOB that year. So that was a lot of fun for me. We actually had a we had a barking manager based off of Paul Heyman that we called Paulie after AlisterFiend there. So we kind of based him off of Alister's character. So we had a blast with it.
That's fantastic. So I think about.
So in other words, he was a dick.
Yeah, of course.
Those are the best ones. I spent a little time thinking about your question, and like I obviously loved that I tagged with Bruce. Ed and Diggzy were a ton of fun together.
Jeff, I mean, come on, you had your pick of the best comparison players, and that is pretty dynamic of some of the tag team partners you've had. It's pretty amazing.
It's true. You're not wrong. I was thinking about it the other day. So you guys don't know this, but how much I love Alan Scott, and I mentioned it earlier. Alan Scott was created to be a tag team partner for one of Bruce's characters.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people remember their first run in FedEx. They were the New Breed, and it was Alan Scott and Lane Flack. And it was fun. And Randy, and we played it like up and comers trapped in a little nowhere dive bar Mexican Wrestling Federation. And Randy came and brought us out and then hampered us with all these like intentional, like, we'll make these kids, kind of the way you hear the stories of guys coming up and getting hired by Vince and then being told like, oh, you're going to be a dentist or you're going to be this. And they're just like, oh, that's going to get, and Randy did that to us and we played it. And man, I had a blast. And I would like, I have to say, like, I loved all those angles and working with Bruce.
Yeah.
However, I never had more success in a tag team than I did with Genocide. And
Sure.
that Genocide and I played characters that weren't on the same page. And I wasn't aware we weren't on the same page the whole time, was just such a great dynamic. Like Bruce and I were on the same page. Price was a ton of fun, but I couldn't count on him to actually show up. Like
Right.
Ed and XXV were amazing and we had a blast. But, you know, sometimes we had matches where I had to do all the posting. And sometimes those matches lasted for 4 months because Price disappeared. So, but Tim, you're not wrong. Like I got my pick of some pretty amazing tag team. Ryan Scott, you know, Man of War and
you know who my favorite is that
Who's
you
that?
tagged with? The Mad Bomber and Ed.
Oh
Give-
yeah,
Give me the Mad Bomber and Ed
old
any day.
school for
Yep.
sure.
Yeah.
The Mad Bomber and Ed were a blast, right? I
No,
got to tell
but
you,
if
with
I'm going
Alistair,
to take one of his characters, I prefer Cat.
see,
Cat and all that Mad Bomber all day long.
right?
Yep.
Mad Bomber is so one-dimensional, and Cat is just out there.
Listen, the Mad Bomber was so much fun. And he's one of the guys we met as a result of Cyber Brawls. Him and Hola Chico and some other guys we would never have known if Cyber Brawls didn't, you know, become a thing and we didn't go. And there wasn't a whole angle there where we could just leave our Fed and go to someone else's Fed and invade it and get them to come back with us. And we did that until we met them, which was great. All right. So, you know, kind of building off of the who is your favorite partner, and I did terrible injustice to lots of people who were amazing partners.
Oh, sure.
Because I had some really good ones.
Well, I had Harry as a partner.
That had to have been entertaining.
Yeah, it was, except that, you know, every time he was posting, he was watching porn.
I mean,
Because that's what Harry does.
What do you-
porn.
What do you expect?
yeah, you agreed to tag with them. You're lucky you weren't in the porn.
He was in our stable, and I didn't have a tag team partner, and neither did he.
So, hey, off the reservation question out of that, do you think that's the natural move, or do you think the story's better if you choose not to tag with him and you tag with somebody outside the stable, and there's that he's not one of us dynamic that your character's having to live through as a result of it?
No, because Alister had to keep dragging Harry out of the living room, out of the stable's locker room to go to matches and stuff. So it was actually kind of fun.
It's just a shaving Colt Calhoun. It's the same character. It's just, different.
Yeah. Hey, let me just really quickly respond to Price and say that he would not be commenting on my hair if he wasn't already going bald.
Well.
So, hey, and by the way,
here you go.
His wife likes it, so that's all that really matters. All right. Guys, who is the tag team that you weren't in that you really put at the top? You're like, hey, listen, if we brought all the tag teams back and it was just like, they're the guys who everybody's looking up to. Who is that tag team you weren't in that you point to?
That's tough. Tim, you go first, because I've been racking my brain about this one. It's a little hard.
So I got a couple early day tag teams that would have stood out during the time in FedEx. The whole High Court stable. Whenever we moved to CCW, we had a huge resistance in that stable. That High Court stable owned the entire CCW, and that was where Gino came from. Right. He had his little buddy the True, and we had a guy named the stable leader called Viz Major. He won his share of prominent titles, and then we had a guy named by LaCronca, and I think LaCronca, LaCronca and the Truth tag team together, and they were the Cronk and Roll Express, and Viz Major and Gino tag team together, and they were the High Court tag team. So kind of played off of the stoner yet legal aspect of it, and might play very well today. It's very, very timely, right? So those guys really set the bar for the mass jobbers to come in, and then whenever Jim with Vidge and Paul with Alister came in with me right off the bat, it was seen as an affront, right? So new commissioner, he's bringing in his guys, he's going to push us down, we're going to fight him every moment. And the longest feud between Gino and I was birthed that day, whenever that happened, and we just kind of
Miller still hates us.
Fought each other. Yeah.
Is that the infamous one in which Miller ended up suspended?
Oh yeah. You got to understand, he's probably 19 at the time, and I'm maybe 23.
Right.
Whatever.
No, hey, listen, I think that's a good story. We shouldn't apologize for that. I remember I was re-listening to the original podcast, and he threw a whole bunch of trash out about it. In the very next podcast, he's like, hey, before I start, I need to walk some step back here. I may have said this and this before I got suspended.
Yeah, he earned it. He earned it.
Absolutely.
But it wasn't just me. It was a group of folks that he pissed off. So, but it sounds better if it's just me.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah. Totally agree. Paul, did you come up with one? Could you think of one? Did you land on a tag team that you weren't in that you would point to and say?
So, back in the day, Crock and Roll Express were fun. Of course, Vigilante and I had to wrestle them numerous times. I was never huge with the Gino one, because Gino didn't like to talk to me. In character or otherwise.
Oh, Gino.
No, they hated. They truly hated each other, and that was what was good. Though you knew you were going to get a good match.
Yeah, always had the heat.
Yeah.
So,
but to add to it, there's three tag teams that I didn't even mention on my list that I already kind of mentioned. The Ed Mad Bomber tag team. I forget what they were called.
Old school.
The Pepper Steaks will always hold a top notch in my heart there with Diggzy and Vidge, and then Man Chowder with Diggzy and I'm sorry, Vigilante and Ov. Pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah, so I think I would be remiss not to point, and I don't know how many people remember it. Das Boot with Of Terror and Hola Chico
Yep.
I mean, they could have posted about sleeping and I would have been entertained. Like, it was so entertaining and funny. And
I remember some kind of all-out battle in Taco Bell with Hola Chico holding the Bloodsport Championship or something.
Yes.
It was amazing.
That's right. So entertaining and such a good time. So they definitely.
My favorite was Samite trying to be Ed's partner.
Oh. So I know. So first of all, hey, we're talking about Samite. I mentioned this before, but I'll say it again. For me, our Father and Rep Future back in C-Slam, when we were all still pretty young compared to where we're at now, they were truly a great tag team in that as a team, they were greater than the sum of their parts. They were both really good players that as a team were a great team. And they didn't have necessarily all that same big, like, you know, go to the T3 SOB kind of level thing going on. But every Fed they landed in, they landed together. The team was continuously partnered for many years. You think about some of the ones we're talking about and how entertaining they were, and then you realize they lasted 4 months. And these guys were partners for years, and I think that deserves some. And they always did a good match. They maybe didn't get recognized, or maybe not in the Legends group. They maybe didn't have a cup of tea in the CCWE or one of those things. But as a team, they were just rock solid for a long, long time. Yeah, absolutely. So
actually, in Wrestle, one of the tag teams I like going against, and that was actually Haley and Hype. I don't know what the hell happened to Hype. He disappeared from the face of the earth. But when Haley and Hype were together, you can ask Price. We had some fun.
I actually liked
Hype.
Hype was a better role player at that time than Price with Haley, and it's probably intentional. But Hype was he's on my underscored or underutilized talents. But I don't know who he was or who his second character was. But Hype was a good partner for her.
I can tell you guys what happened to him. It's the same thing that happens to everybody who has to carry Price for very long. You get tired. You get burned out. You quit.
Gotta wear the back brace.
Haley was actually uber active during this.
I'm just saying, listen.
During this moment in time.
Strife disappeared. Strife disappeared. I haven't played in 8 years. I mean, there's a common thread here, guys.
Haley and Hype hug Alistair by his ankles from a tree with a rope. And I had to sell this for like 4 hours before somebody from my own stable would come and get me. And I was on like all the time at this point in time. Yeah. And so every 30, 40 minutes, I'm making a post. I'm singing Nobody Knows What Trouble I've Seen while I'm hanging from my feet from a tree.
Price says his back broke.
Yeah. Listen,
I'm carrying him too much.
Probably on more that day than the entire time you were a commissioner.
Wow. Yeah. We're going to go there?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Listen, I don't just talk about you when you're not on. We'll have a conversation while you're here. And Price is giving you props because you sold hanging from that tree, right? Like, that's the entertainment value.
I would sell stuff. People just hated the fact that I didn't role play very well. I'm a horrible typist. I can think of all the things I want to do and I want to say. Oh, man, I start typing it and this is taking me way too long.
Hey, they do voice to text now. I'm just saying. You could talk to your phone and it'll type it for you. Hey, so speaking of.
Back then, I didn't have a phone, dude.
Yeah, I launched the podcast by talking about the fact that Commissioner Lars made a return, made a card. It really sets up one of the questions I had, which is there a feud or a match or an angle or an event that would make you go, hey, I feel like I want to get back on the boards for this? Like, is there a player that shows up and calls you out? Is there a storyline you always wanted to do that somebody starts doing and you go, oh, I'm so intrigued, let me dive in? Is there an event like, hey, I don't want to play forever, but if somebody ran Stable Wars for a month, like I would show up just for that month because, man, I love Stable Wars. Like, is there something that would open that door for you again?
Sponsor Wars is always fun.
It's always fun, right?
However, it's funny you should ask that. Tim and I were having a little conversation last night. And if you look at the second match on that card Tim made.
Yep.
Okay.
Now you're going to make me actually go look at it, aren't you?
Yeah.
So, everything among everything has been done, right? It's just how it's been done. How can it be done to make sense? Right? If there was a way or this is outside of the whole concept of if there was one angle that I would come back for or one feud that I would come back for, outside of that, this would be a path, right? It would be a path that I'd be interested in maybe checking it out and seeing if there was interest. My life's a lot different now than it was before. I got a little bit more accessible time. I could, I could pitch in and help out here and there, but what makes sense role play wise, what makes sense, for the come back in and intriguing people, kind of a thing would be the case. But, I kind of planted that in there for Marlo or for Randy to see, could he be interested or intrigued in writing us out of it,
Right. Yeah, and I think that was a really intriguing one. Let's come back to it though, and let's answer the first question, which is an event, an angle, a story that would get you to go, hey, I think maybe I want to.
I think I'd come back in a heartbeat for what was the main role play tournament that we
King of Wrestling?
Set up? King of Wrestling, that'd been a no doubter. If I got an invite, tomorrow, hey, we have 20 guys, 30 guys, it's growing. Do you want to be involved? Hell yeah. Definitely I'd jump in on that. Stable Wars, absolutely. Any kind of King of the Cage or whatever kind of event like that, whatever you want to call it. No doubt. And then, kind of a, so stuff like that would be, it's like a quick hitter, gets people involved. You never know who might still linger around afterwards.
Yeah, we talked in an earlier podcast about the fact that we think the tipping point is 15 posters, right? And not alts, but 15 people writing,
right?
And not in huge volume, but just enough that there's always somebody to pick up on. So whenever you want to write, there's something you can write to. And I think that that's probably true, but also I think you hit the nail on the head, which is to say, hey, like if 15 or 16 guys put up their hands and said, hey, we haven't played, who's the king of the rusty writers?
Right.
Like, let's go.
Alistair shows up, Bid shows up, MMG, Mass Jobber shows up, guys like Ov, I'm interested. I'm at least reading
what they're writing. Doesn't show up for, and that's a damn rewrite competition.
Yeah. I get that part. There's a lot to it. Okay, so if you had to put a new character today, so let's say everybody decides they want to play, but you're not allowed to play a character you've played before. What do you play? Like, what's the idea?
I'm screwed.
What's that?
Well, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
I would go with a completely new, newbie character. Take the opportunity to kind of do it the right way, maybe long haul, kind of taking my time and writing out the details of the characteristics and charisma of the individual. I never felt like I got a chance to do that, although I had a little bit of opportunity, but there was always something always drawing me back into the admin side of it. It was just always needed, always more and more and more. So I would focus more on that aspect of it and try to do a long build, something like that.
Yeah, I think that's a great.
I'd come back with a face.
Yeah, that's funny.
That'll last 32 seconds.
Yeah.
Long enough for him to type the.
Yeah. No, I enjoyed the times
that Jack like.
Yeah. I mean, the short times that I was able to do that in a couple, little quick stints, I did enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, that's how come Bruce and I started Alan and Lane. It was we really wanted to build characters from the ground up. And I liked that enough that's why I created Austin James.
Yeah.
And I liked the idea of would people still want to interact with my character if they didn't know it was me? Right? And that's why I always liked masking. Like, yeah, there's a great storyline where somebody unmasks, and I think that's such an important element of our game. But the more important element is, can you get over when you can't ride in on the history of I'm already over? So, yeah, I think I'm with you. That's such an interesting approach. Terror and Austin James should be in the same Fed, Mike. I'm just going to throw that to you right now. Of Terror and Austin James would be fantastic together.
No,
all right.
Had a great tag team partner. His name was Omega.
Oh, I remember Omega.
Yeah.
For sure, I remember Omega. Omega was.
Yeah, well, he came back as a singles competitor in FedEx.
Right.
We had him in WDN and the Blood Brothers, and him and Ob were partners.
Yeah. So here's the question: as we talk about characters, is there an alt that you played at some point in time that nobody knows was you? While you think about that, I'll just call out to Price, throwing down on Austin James being a loser because he beat me in the King of Wrestling in the most controversial results of all time. And Chris is still a dick for the fact that he gave Price that win.
I mean, I have a couple, but I didn't play with them for very long.
So who are they?
So I played Garrett Killian for a little bit in the one of the alt feds. I think I came up against Alan Scott once or at the tail end of that, and I just didn't have the time to mess with it, and I just kind of tossed over the match to Techno or somebody like that. But I enjoyed.
No, that's right.
Yeah, there's that name from the past.
Yeah,
I enjoyed playing with him. Kane Dawsey. I had a little run with Kane Dawsey just here and there, just a little spurts. And then I really enjoyed the time that we played with the Heretic stable.
Yeah,
the Ezekiel kind of thing. That was, we played masked, and then we changed over to brand new characters that nobody knew, and we unmasked, and everybody was expecting some legend or whatever, and they were these new fresh-faced guys. I thought that had a lot of play that we never really fleshed out.
I totally agree. That was a fun time. I know that Benny hated it, but I was entertained, and I thought it was.
Benny hated it. Colt hated it, but we dug at everybody because they knew it was people that knew what the hell to do, and we were pissing them off. But yeah, I enjoyed that, and I moved over to like Garrison Prime. There's a fun little story. I and Bruce shared a character in like a a wrestle indie called Mr. Crawley. And we had just for 1 month only, we had a blast. Just
That's hilarious.
We would both have the sign in. It would be, we'd be the like most super active guy in the Fed, and we just played this crazy man that was just insane, and nobody knew what to do with. It was fun. It was fun.
That in no way surprises me. I can totally imagine that he would have thought that was a completely amazing idea to just mess everybody up.
Yep.
So in C-Slam, I played one of the C-Slam originals in the month where we wreaked havoc on the entire C-Slam. There was at least one of us in every Fed playing the original characters from the very first month of C-Slam. I played one of those characters.
Is that the last
I remember.
time you had a character other than Alister?
Yeah, I think that was an orchestrated angle called the Bloodline.
Yes.
So we would bring back. I remember because I was part of it too. Because we'd bring back names like Comet Maker and Prototype and Steroid Head and stuff like that.
We were the 13.
Yeah.
The lucky 13.
Yeah.
I think you should have just answered Hammer, because nobody knows who Hammer is. Everybody thinks it's of Terror.
You know who Hammer is.
I do, but no one else did.
You found out a fun way in an email that you fired off to your commissioner.
Yeah, and he was like, "Hey, dude, it's me." I was like, "Oh, well, you suck."
It's like just shut up, just shut up and deal.
No, I was like this coming from a guy whose email is Lord Moron.
Hey, so Cooter is out there saying "of" is the best Hammer, and he's not wrong. We called him Hammer, and early on he didn't know where the reference came from. He just knew that we called him Hammer. It came from Alister. It came from Paul. It came from his commissioner that we did not embrace.
And the funny part on that, Jeff, was that after that, and you didn't know, was that I was in CGW.
Right.
When you guys made him Hammer.
Yeah.
I got it. I could tell by what was going on by the other people that were posting exactly what it was referring to.
Good time.
So Tim, I actually took Toy Soldier had a character in CGW.
That's right.
Named Wyld Side. And I took that character over just so I could fuck with Jeff.
It was okay with I earned it. I gave you a really hard time when you were basically ignoring your Fed as a commissioner.
Well, again, I only ignored it after 5 certain individuals showed up.
Yeah, Mav
and
was
made it
one of them.
impossible to control.
Yeah, Mav was one of them. They were playing talk show hosts.
I'm aware the talk show hosts were big dick, and I knew they were leaving as soon as the month was over, and they told me up front because Matt just sent me a message out of nowhere and said, "Hey, look, 5 guys are showing up in your Fed tomorrow. I'm one of them. This is who they'll be." Well, you'll know who they are as soon as we get on the board because we're going to fuck with absolutely everybody in your Fed.
Oh, Mav. Hey, one of the things that we have on our list that I do want to talk about is there's some guys out there. We talk about our alts and people not knowing our alts, but there are some guys out there that just didn't get enough run. They didn't get enough appreciation, enough use, enough push, enough opportunity to get into big stories. Maybe they didn't get to play enough, or maybe they didn't get into the right Feds with the right people, and so they're not kind of recognized enough. Who are some of the talents that you encountered that maybe aren't names that everybody else knows, but really should be on that level? Anybody come to mind?
I got a list.
I'm sure you have a list.
I mean, we ran into a
Of
guy
course he
that
does. Look how many posts he's read.
I don't know. He's alt. He had to be an alt. A guy by the name of Visige. I think Todd with MMG ran into him in a rewrite that he got a little bit more than he bargained for every once in a while. But I don't know who that guy was. But he could show up to a match, but I know that he kind of fizzled out way too soon. After that, I ran into the whole Johnny XS and Static and Hype guys. I would say Static and Hype are right there when you're talking about underutilized, underappreciated. Moving back a little further, Deos that started the 160 proof. Very, very quick. Didn't have much life, but he started something that lasted a long time. And Max and Tropy, Max and Tropy can attest to that. And the other two guys were we're talking about Blood Brothers, Emissary, and Omega. Very underutilized, underappreciated, and didn't really push.
Oh, I almost forgot about Emo
capability. And the last two guys on my list are the. It's going to answer a couple of questions later on in your prepackaged questions. Here is Valentine and Osiris. Really, really good. And in your previous podcast, you're talking about really good together.
That came up on the last podcast.
Really good together. Really good. The Wyld Stallionz are an amazing combo for sure.
So entertaining.
Yeah.
So entertaining. Oh, there's an outbreak of support for Fat Static. I just want to clarify. Static didn't write himself as fat. Price wrote Static as fat. Static got more run when he quit playing than I'm aware he ever got when he was playing.
This is true. I was there. Yep.
Yeah. And honestly, I loved Static in those days because he was the NPC that we could do whatever with, and the fact that we just made him fatter and less useful all the time was amazing.
Well, the fact that Haley and Hype utilized that to their best of their ability at that time, it was amazing. Yeah. Those are the good times. That's when we first started to really truly challenge the network or the not work. For that Stable Wars title. Yeah.
Yep. So I'll say this, Emissary had really the start to something great in Federation X and then just fell off at the wrong time because he was on the cusp of really a big thing. He founded the Instant Karma Initiative with Storm, and Storm took it and ran with it all the way through from like March until August in the King of Wrestling. But Emissary didn't last. He was there in March and then died off, and Storm just decided to double down. But he was, behind it, and there was momentum. Storm actually swerved out of his tag team with Alan Scott so that he could form that with Emissary because he saw this great opportunity out there. And then we lost Emissary, and I kind of laughed at Storm. But the truth is, Emissary had come up with the idea and was really feeding into it. It was a loss to see him go. Also, Omega was like a yo-yo. Like he would show up and be around just long enough to start to get some momentum and then disappear again, and then show up and start to build some and then disappear again. And every time he built the momentum, I thought he was going to turn a corner and really kind of elevate, and then he would leave again. And that was unfortunate because he really was good. Yeah, for sure. Paul, you got anybody on your list like that? Anybody that you saw that just didn't maybe make it over the hump or really get the attention of everybody?
Captain All That was awesome and never got all the way over.
Man,
I loved the character. He was great. Couldn't win a match to save his life in any way, shape, or form, but was always up to role play anything.
Yeah.
Actually, a couple of AODers, a couple of their alts were characters that were awesome in role play, but didn't do so well on the Simeon WDN. And I'm talking about Count Justice and Virtue Knight. These guys They loved playing it. How they played it off, and always calling Diggzy a filthy Moor.
It's holy, evil, and naked men. Otherwise,
right.
Yeah,
yes.
of course.
Talent, right?
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to.
I mean, as characters, though, the actual characters themselves were never the most over characters of theirs, even though they played them all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
So there are a few others. I think we called it out on one podcast. I don't think it was an accident, and I don't think it was a bad player. Solo did not get a big enough run. Solo was so entertaining at how bad that character was.
Entertaining in a bad way?
Listen, I was entertained.
Had to be Price, right? Or had to be shared account.
It's basically how he types all the time. So
I just remember the monster truck.
Then you might as well just say Thor was entertaining, okay?
No, Solo is better than Thor on so many levels.
Yes, very much.
And also a better writer
You know, and I heard one on another on another one of these podcasts, and I'm going to agree with it. Brutal, after he got over himself, was so much a better player than he was when we first met him and made him feel like a jackass.
We did that to a lot of people, but yeah. I think that's right. I think that's definitely fair.
Absolutely.
So we started earlier, and I kind of reeled it back in and recorrected us. But one of the main topics I wanted to hit on while we were here, we always get a little bit of a flurry, and you know, Bill was like, it'd be nice if people showed up for more than 3 weeks. I think that's a great question. Like, how do we get there? What is the angle? The truth is, people have done Federation Rebirth angles 100 different ways. There's not a lot of new stories to tell, but is there an angle, a hook, a theme, a story, a something that you think has enough sizzle to get more than 3 people to post for 2 weeks? Because the problem isn't, like, if you look at the course of a year, over the course of a year, 15 people post. The problem is none of them post at the same time. And the absence of them posting at the same time means no momentum gets built. And it's momentum that draws other people back to maybe dabbling, and then dabbling becomes, I'm going to post 3 times a week. And really these days, 3 times a week would make you a rock star. So Tim, you guys talked, and then you hooked something into the card that you put up on the boards. Tell us about that, and then tell us, what is it about that angle that you think might generate some interest?
Well, you know, I think it's got to be, you know, in this land of role play wrestling, right? So it's got to be believable to me to buy into it, right? And it's got to be sustainable. Just to say, oh, we're back to where we were, isn't gonna work. The other thing that I think is, we have to throw in like an incentive of somebody's actually gonna put together a card and admin this. Somebody else is watching, that we're just not playing, you know, going out and playing grab ass and playing off our own, you know, good guy posts and you know, we're all dead and we're gonna come alive and all that fun stuff. So, you know, it's one of those things where how do we get to the point to where you know, it's believable and it's an angle that everybody can kind of buy into. Mm-hmm. You know, and I plan to message, you know, Randy to see if he's even, I don't even know if he's even interested in it. Right. I just threw it in there. You know, maybe it's a thing where, you know, FedEx is getting sued for extortion and back taxes and all that because of Gino's an asshole. You know, very, very, very obvious scenario.
Very believable.
Right. Well, everybody that was ever a part of FedEx on the roster could buy in and buy shares to get us back on track, and all of a sudden we're forced to go back into business or something of that nature. You know, everybody owns a piece. You know, Stranger X is everybody now. You know, kind of a thing.
Right.
You know. Go ahead.
Go, Paul.
Paul.
Grayson and Lars' biggest problem was that they hired Gino on to be their secretary to begin with.
You're not wrong. That's not even an in-character commentary. That was our biggest issue.
I
Period.
am actually pretty sure that the reason that Grayson and Lars have financial troubles is that Genocide probably embezzled from you guys.
I'm sure he did.
Yeah, so am I. Good guy there.
But only because we underpaid him. I'm sure that there's a reason why he had to do it.
Yeah. Speaking of underpaying.
So Bill kind of jumped on something that you touched on, Tim. He said, the issue isn't the sizzle or the appeal of the story. It's the coordination that prevents it from ever
Correct.
happening.
Right. Everybody's afraid of long-term commitment at this point. If you show them, we show them that there's a long-term satisfaction to their 1 or 2 posts a day.
Right.
It's not so scary. Right.
And the truth is, like, we used to play balls out, right? Like, I mean, guys were posting 5 times a day. The truth is, if you post,
if it isn't Martini Bagel Guy.
Yeah, I see bagel guys showing up. Gary, we know that you're here because Tim and I are here. Did you quit your job just so that you could come and listen to Tim and I? Because that wouldn't surprise me at all.
He quit playing salt and pepper to come here.
That's right. Way to throw it back, Gary. So today,
105.
That's right. That same star level of activity isn't 5 a day. It's not even 5 a week.
Right.
It's probably 3 or 4 a week makes you the heavy poster. And you know, Bill rightfully is saying, like, there were 12 plus posts in a week and you were slow, like you were behind the times. There were weeks where the top poster was hitting 30, which is insane, but didn't seem that way at the time. It seemed like there was this constant dynamic to really dial into this. So coordination, and what does coordination look like? Do we start just by saying we're doing it? Who wants to do it? Who wants to commit to it?
I think
do we start it by doing a tournament? Like what's
I think we push it an incentive to some type of big tournament. In the actives among the boil up to the tournament get better ranking or what have you. Just to kind of see what simmers, and then we work that time to work our network to try to see who can at least commit to a match.
Right. Well, I want to tell you that I did see Maximum Michael Gold say if we called it the COVID Invitational, he's in. So, I mean, I'm willing to call it whatever it takes. So,
yeah.
Actually, that dude is so old, he better not come to the COVID Invitational.
That's true.
I do just about anything to see a Maximum Michael Gold post again. So
yeah, me too. Right at the top.
That'd be cool.
He could post his Jim Rome for all I care, as long as he shows up and posts.
Okay, so we have a couple of ideas. So here's what we want. We want the people who are watching the podcast to actually respond in the comments or go to the boards and comment and say, and you can go to the OSC board and just comment and say, like, hey, I want to do a tournament, or hey, let's just commit to, I'd rather do Stable Wars, or like,
I'm willing to help admin.
Yeah,
I'm willing to help do
whatever you need.
It's fine.
Yeah, I see.
I agree with Rasputin's comment.
I don't even see what he's saying.
Yeah. For sure, my cousin is on point when he says, "Hey, it's got to be back and forth, not rewrite." I don't want to do rewrites either. I want to role play. I want to tell a story where I don't control the whole story. For sure.
Now, see, I might be up for one of those because I didn't mind doing that stuff. That's how Michael Gold and Alistair won the tag team portion of Stable Wars in the Band of Brothers to begin with, was because we posted off of each other and everybody else all the time.
Right. Hey, I should say for everybody who's watching and goes, look, I tried to go, but I like, the site has changed. The site didn't change. It got bought by somebody else. All your original logins are still on there. And if you can't get into them, I can get you into them. I can reset the passwords. I can reset the email address that the account is set to. I got Of back into his. I got Rude back into, like, I can help.
Got mine.
That's right.
Yeah.
So if you ever had a
It's
FedEx
time to
login,
wearing the respirator.
it's all the same one, and I can get you back into it. So tell us what you think. You can put it in the responses, or you can go to the boards and make your comments. You know, Lars, the one that I hear from everybody is the top commissioner of all time, is saying, you know, he'll help us get this thing off the ground. Who better could we ask for? So here's your chance. We've seen lots of people dabble for a week or a month and not really get it off the ground because there was no coordination. There you go. By the way, no feds got deleted, Bill. They're hidden. I can still see them and I can restore them. So no, it didn't get deleted. The only thing you got deleted was Rassel because you blew the whole damn thing up, right? And you still get mad props for doing it.
For $11 billion.
Hey, I'm still thinking like in Canadian, that might be doable. Let me just throw this out there. We had a couple of top lists that we were going to touch on before we wrapped up. Top 5 commissioners that you saw in the game. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Great.
Lars. Lars is a given. He's a legend in two different, well, not 3 different games. Yeah.
Minimum.
Let's call it 3.
Yep.
Even though FedEx spawned off of Rassel, it's still 3. Stickler. He is a C-Slam original, was the actual original CyberSlam Legends Federation commissioner, but he only agreed to do it for 1 month, and
Paul,
then Tim had to take it over.
Did you say Stickler?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
He was cool grease.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. Believe it or not, Storm was actually a decent commissioner when he wasn't looking out for himself. He paid attention to his feds.
Yeah. Mav, look, you're getting props. You could take the punch in the chin at the same time.
Yes. As much as I hate to admit it, because as much as Alistair hates Grayson is actually an RA commissioner. In
I love that the
character,
personal animosity is like,
the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
That's great.
and Keebler.
Oh,
Keebler.
yeah, for sure.
I couldn't keep up with the craziness that was in that Fed personally, but he did a great job running that place.
No doubt. No doubt. He was innovative, had some ideas that nobody else was tossing out there, and it wasn't just standard boring wrestling shit.
Right. And no price. That might be the second worst commissionership ever.
It's not the second
And
worst.
I say
It's
second
the
worst because I was the worst.
I'd take the hammer over them. You don't understand.
Yes.
I
was the worst.
Yeah.
And yes, Bill, I
I
still
was
have
the
no
worst.
I don't think you were the worst. I think
No,
we got a guy.
Sanity Claus was a horrible fucking commissioner. Point blank, Bill.
I think we got a guy named Hawthorne or something they were throwing around that was pretty bad. So,
That guy was just a.
okay.
All right, what's your list look like? Tim?
So I got an honorable mention before my top 5 or number 5. Honorable mentions the Don. So he was Barrister was the Don, I think, in CWA. He was my rival for some time.
Yeah.
But we kicked his ass. So that's okay. Number 5, Funky Nassau, the original. the original
Oh,
guy
yeah.
that
For Alex, there you
kinda
go.
started it all.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
And-
okay. Alex has to get his props for
You know,
sure.
Maybe we can get a funky Nassau posting here or there. We definitely are in communication
Can we
with
get
them.
a funky Nassau sighting is
Yeah.
the better question.
If we told him
Oh, yeah.
that there was whiskey involved, he'd show
Yeah,
up.
there's rare bourbon involved somewhere. He will be there. Yeah.
So Jeff, do we come to your house often?
He's all the way across the continent.
It's Bourbon Central. He's pretty far, but it is Bourbon Central.
Number 4, I would say Grayson. You know,
Thanks,
my
pal.
amigo, and you know, pretty much, you know, you can't do wrong with that, and does the right things all the time, and runs a tight fed. Very, very, very cool to be in partnership with you all those years. Number 3, I'm gonna say Myth.
Oh, wow.
Just because he was so unique in what he did in Cyber Slam, and his whole thing was Ring Wars. He was Ring Wars.
That's
So he
right.
took it. He
He
tried
owned it.
to create something completely different whenever something wasn't there. I know the guy personally. He's, you know, I've met him, and he and Alex and I have spoken and had drinks together. Really good guy. His heart was in the right place to do the right things.
Yeah, Sean's a good guy.
Sean.
Yep.
Yeah, you're pretty familiar with him too, Paul, right?
Yeah, I was his roommate for a little while.
Yeah, you actually lived with him.
Right.
I did.
Number 2 is Keebler. You know, you can't beat the guy that's trying new things and being innovative, and half the things that happened in Wrestle happened because of Keebler.
Yep.
Or number 1 on my list, which is Maverick, right? So Keebler and Maverick were why, honestly, let's just face it, were why Wrestle was a success for all that time. Philly Fats aside, Keebler and Maverick did have a lot of interesting, innovative ideas that they were allowed to take and run with. So that's my top 5.
Philly may actually not get enough credit from some people. He had some pretty big shoes to fill in when they promoted him and put him in the spot. And he was toting the company line when all that fallout happened.
The dig on was you talking about Keebler?
No, Philly.
Philly. Oh yeah, Philly. Yeah. The thing I remember about Keebler is all the crazies the AOD hoarded to him just because he allowed and was creative and did a lot of weird stuff.
Yep.
So a lot of the crazies were in that fed, and if you were a serious, like, straight to the lace, you kick-ass wrestler just wanted to wrestle role play, you did not go to a Keebler fed.
That's right.
Yeah, I found that out in a hurry.
Yeah.
There's plenty of things you can do. You actually, if you're on the super far side of a straight edge guy like Ed, it's actually easy to deal with comedy characters. It's when you're in that middle ground that it can get.
Yeah, because you just punch him in the face, Ed.
Right. That's the move. And, you know, like Hoj cut Ed's face off, and we did an entire match that was face off. Like, it was great, and I didn't have to stop being Ed. In fact, he had to start being Ed because he was wearing Ed's face. So it's that.
Homeless Jay is actually one of my favorite underrated characters ever.
Yeah.
Who would have knew Homeless Jay's a regular guy? I thought he was like a totally messed up dude, but
The way he writes.
After all said and done, I actually became Facebook friends with the dude. Pretty awesome. I thought he was like a totally drug addict down by the river underneath the bridge.
He was just writing life experience. So, hey, let's look at the other list. I know this is a list, Tim, you guys put down and said, hey, we want to do this one.
Yes.
You'd heard us doing it before. If you were going to start a Fed today, who are the 15 guys that you tap on the shoulder and go, hey, let's go. I've got you. This is the Fed, and people are going to line up to try and get in.
You know, there's a lot of these names I've already said throughout this podcast. So I'm going to go through you 15 through 1.
Hey, hold on. Let me just call this out because some people need recognition when they show up. I'm pretty sure I just saw Weedman show up in the live feed. I've never heard from Weedy in ages. I'm pretty sure that's who I'm seeing on there, which is great. There is a fantastic group of you guys showing up to talk live and follow along with what we're doing. That's super cool.
Right on. That's
all
awesome.
Right. Sorry, Tim. Go ahead. I didn't want to cut you off.
Number 50. So I mean, I'm gonna give a couple honorable mentions, and then I'll give my 15. Honorable mention. Number 1's Grigory Rasputin.
Oh yeah.
Whenever I was actually able to play with Lars in Wrestle, he and I had a great feud together for 1 or 2 months there. That's when the whole lottery thing hit, and I was just balls out. Like, I'm gonna kick your ass no matter what. Yep. And he and I had a great time feuding together, fighting over against that for sure. But I was too overpowered at the time with all that lottery money, and it wasn't.
It's not our fault. We figured out the secret to the game.
You just, I mean, you fudge around for a year, you buy all, you get all the money accumulated, and you just buy it 1 month, and then you're done. You know, you're good. And you shoot it all in 1 or 2 months, and you're a champion.
Yep.
So next honorable mention. Sorry, Bill, but you're in my honorable mention list. Max or Deke, give me a combination of that. That's fine, but you're not making my top 15. You'll understand after I list. After I list my 15.
So here's the thing, and I'll say this because I think Deke suffers from the same criteria as Nighthawk, which is well-written, strong character, great story, tone for where the game is at today.
Yeah.
Which is why I think it's got to be Max.
It's got to be Max.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was so good stuff as Deke that nobody ever knows what the hell happened with Deke to even understand that history. He produced so much talent with Deke, and how it translates and all that. It is basically I admired his talent from afar because I wound him over from Barrister and the Dawn, from the CWA back in the day to the CCW, and he's been kind of my guy ever since. So very, very good stuff, Bill. You should be proud, especially after you hear the tally of the list. So number 15. I mean, you're gonna see a lot of shit stirs and a lot of people that are hyperactive and post and number 1 that stirs the shit, Johnny Rude, number 15 on my list.
Love it.
I mean, how can you go wrong with that? Number 14, give me any combination of Captain All That, the Mad Bomber, or Top Notch, or any kind of rendition.
Oh, Top Notch.
Whatever you.
Shit, I almost forgot he was Top Notch.
Yeah, bring it on. Totally great guy. Will roll with everything and anything, and is a great tag partner.
Yep.
Number 13 is very less kind of known in these circles is Biz Major. He ran those guys, and he taught Gino how to be the player he turned out to be. And Gino turned out to be better than him. But back in the day, he was still kind of learning the ropes from Viz Major.
Yeah.
Yep, good guy. Number 12, I'm going to give it to Carnage.
Nice. Carnage gets lots of love on this podcast.
Talk about
where he is on social media, but we got to hook him up.
Yeah, we got to figure. Does anybody know who Carnage, where Carnage is now? Get us some contact information. I don't know. It'd be great to see him post again. Number 11, Mr. Johnny XS. The Mr. carrying the network for all those years. You always have something interesting aside from the activity here and there. Anytime he's posting, he's got something considerable to watch and look at and play off of, and he will play off you too. So that's the consistency throughout all this listing. Number 10, I'm going to go with Randy with Von Doom or Gilgamesh.
Von Doom or Gilgamesh. So right off the boards, we didn't go Marlowe, we didn't go Air in Action.
Nope.
Von Doom.
No. I like him a lot better
great.
as Von Doom. I love him a lot better as Von Doom than the Gilgamesh. Well, I like Gilgamesh, but I'd rather have Von Doom.
Obviously, Gilgamesh was my tag team partner forever. Yeah. And I cannot underscore what a great tag team partner he was.
Yeah. Talk about a guy, innovative, thinking of always thinking of things to just be able to have people pull onto and play off of. Kind of not his own center of everything he's got, but just one of those guys that's always thinking about the larger role that he could spin off of and have people play off of.
Yeah.
Randy's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing rider. Number 9, I'm going to go with kind of my unsung hero is Valentine. Valentine is a treasure to have in a Fed. As a commissioner, you always want a guy like Valentine, whether it's he's kind of my my slot in my CCW days. My Captain Chaos is my Valentine.
Captain
role.
Chaos. Good shout out.
Yeah.
I totally get it. By the way, I had Val in my Fed. I think he was 14 years old when he was in my Fed.
Oh,
geez. I've loved him since. He has always been amazing. But as he got better as a writer, he used to send me messages and go, "Can you believe they let me be a teacher?" Like, no, I cannot. And if I send them any of your posts, they will stop letting you teach kids.
We should reach out to Val as well.
So yeah, absolutely. Yep. I'd love to have Val. If you can get on the show, like, let's do that, because you have a legion of fans who would love to see if real life is anywhere near the messed up as you are.
Or we could get the teachers on the call at the same time. We can get Colt and Valentine and on the same one. So I'm kind of getting ahead of myself with the who would I like to have on the podcast.
Yeah, we'll come to that. You're right.
Number 8 is most definitely the version Holy Evil, back in the C-Slam days.
Right.
I know you didn't have a very good interaction with him, and you know,
fine for me.
Was what it was. But I believe he was Virtue Knight of the Virtue Knight, and
I loved Virtue Knight. Like, really did.
Yeah. But he was a really he as Virtue Knight, he was a workhorse of the CCW.
Yeah.
With the tag partner there, and I can't remember Count somebody in Virtue Knight. Count Justice.
That's right.
Yeah. But he was really committed, and they did put in some hard work there for sure, amongst the guys like the Blood Brothers coming in, amongst the guys like the High Court. The 2 strong tag teams came in, and they you know, it was a mix of like 4 or 5 tag teams really super active, which is really exciting at that time, because tag team wrestling was really not really where you kind of made your bread and butter and role play in those days, and CCW kind of played to that weakness. So it's kind of fun to see. Number 7, I'm going to go with Genocide, Mr. Jason Price, or Jason Miller with that. Price. Sorry, Price.
You're many slots back. You're not at a 7. Let's not.
Well, you're 11, Price, you know. Number 6, I'm going to go with Storm. Great to have in a Fed, always stirring stuff up, always having stuff to play off of. Really good to kind of
swerving everybody.
Yep.
All the time.
Swerve City, baby.
He swerved his own characters.
Yep. Swerve City.
He did.
Number 5, I'm going Mass Jobber, Max and Michael Gold. Give me Todd, any version, any day. Bring it on. You know, awesome. Top 5. Number 4, I'm going Vigilante. Jim's one of the original folks that I kind of saw the talent and brought him up as a major commissioner, and brought him up. He was my first call up as an indie character, and I didn't even know him. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yep. Him and Deus.
Oh, by the way, wait. Do you know who my first call up was that I didn't know? Because I had some other guys come up at the same time I did know. Any guesses? Diggzy Brown.
Diggzy Brown.
Diggzy Brown.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so here's the name on the list you've been looking for. Number 3, I'm gonna go with Strife. I mean,
Strife.
Solid.
I thought we had a mutual understanding that nobody was actually going to put Strife on their list.
I'm a different breed. Been doing this too long. I know what I'm seeing. So
no oversights there. We love Strife.
Strife is on the list. Number 2, give me Acid Ed, give me Hawk. Any version of those two. I'll take it.
Let me ask the question. Same question I asked when you talked about Max. Is the formula for feds these days such that Hawks doesn't fit? Or do you still see Hawk fits in a fed?
In the terms of what exactly? What wouldn't make him fit?
Yeah.
So I think there's a sense that when you, certainly there's a period where, like Bill played the Dark Knight, Deke, in those, there was a mystic element to it. And certainly there was a time when I played that element to Hawk, and there's a lot of backstory in that. But also there was a time when it's just like, turns out Root, my, brother.
I would challenge you to look at the suspension of reality that's going on and what you're seeing in the last 2 weeks that's been posted.
Yeah.
I can suspend reality enough to believe a Hawk story.
Right. I got you.
That's just me.
That's just
me.
I think we all know that Ed can step in pretty much anywhere because he's such a universally useful. I mean, when he was dead, he had his best run with XS as a tag team partner as Acid Dead. So he's
that's the Blood Sport Championship main event that we have. Right.
Love it. Yep.
Right. Driving Miss Daisy from hell and back, I guess is the name of it.
Yeah, and Max, if you haven't seen it, it's Max and Ed, and make no mistake, if you don't show up, like, I'll post enough for all of us and I'll control the story. So I'm good with that.
All right. Any guesses for who's the number 1?
Oh, wow. Because you've dropped some big names, man.
He's been all over this podcast, man.
Is it Diggzy?
Diggzy Brown.
My brother, yeah. I'm with you.
Yep. He's the glue that holds the thing together. Great tag team partner, great tag team player. Always has something consistent to play off of. Awesome.
Yep. Price thought maybe number 1 was Fat Static.
No.
I love it.
Correct, sir.
I love it. Oh, one of these podcasts, I'll sit down and I'll make my list for everybody. It's so hard. I just want to say this: 15's not enough. The amount of talent.
You made a list. You left me off it.
Oh yeah,
I did. It's the truth. I'm sorry.
No, I'm not talking about you, Tim.
It's talking to me.
Because he apologized to me too.
Well, it's the truth. I'm sorry. That's the way it goes. You are
all good.
You are a sidekick, Mr. Paul. Sorry.
There are so many glue guys, right?
Yep.
The guys
that you need those guys.
Right. Glue guys make feds work, right? And so here's I'm not slamming him. Osiris is a glue guy. Like, that guy sees that there's a thread of a story over here that someone else is going to run and star in, and he goes over and picks that thread up and makes it 2 notches higher up. He has so much value, but when we sit down and do lists like this, he doesn't necessarily end up on the list. But he's a guy that when he shows up and says, "Hey, I'm going to play," we're all super excited that he's there.
Yeah, he's going to put in effort.
Right.
And he's going to sell.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way,
make it more than a week this time.
Yeah. Listen, Paul, you're getting roasted. I don't know what to tell you.
That's okay.
I can't
feel
believe
good.
I'm not on the list. And Todd suggested that you
The
realize.
fact that Tom wrote top 1,500, I'm just going with his ass.
Man, that is about as shots fired as there's going to be. Bill, you got that one spot on. Paul, do you have your own list?
I do.
Let's hear it.
So, yeah, I'm giving mine in no particular order. I'm just naming
Sure.
15 guys that if I were going to start a Fed, would have to be there. Big is going to be on that list every day of my week because, like I said, I grew up playing this game with Big, ran with him most of the time until he stopped playing and I was still playing.
Tim, do you, Paul, let me interrupt. Tim, do you have a tap sitting right beside you?
No, I have beer.
Oh, I didn't see the can and I thought you would have tap there. I was like, oh man, whatever he's got going on, he's going to have to come and set up in my office too.
I do have a tap in my kitchen, by the way. So
I
yeah,
believe it. Yeah, of course you do.
Got the kegerator. Come on.
That's
Yeah.
right.
of course.
All right, Paul, you go. I'm now jealous and I'm going to go get something from my bourbon bar. I'll be right
Go
back.
for it.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Shame on you for not drinking.
So, yeah. Vigilante for sure. As much as I love Maximum Michael Gold, I'm going with Todd as Max Jobber.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nobody ever pushed.
I never saw a guy personify Brian Pillman the way Todd did with MMG. It just, he owned that persona. He owned that per character, and he owned being a dirty masked Mexican, and did all those things that you would suspect. And he was amazing at doing it. So absolutely.
Well, props go to the man behind it because he's the one that called on me when he wanted Max Jobber to go away forever.
Right. But he never went away forever. We kept him going. Benito for life. He will always be the
Benito
referee.
Jobber, baby. All right. I'm going to go a couple of blasts from the past that he claimed only. One is Ebola because he could draw hatred out of anybody.
Yep.
Out of anybody. And unfortunately, the other one's
original Blood Brother.
Also an original Blood Brother streak ender. Before he turned into a dirty pussy.
I don't know about that, but okay.
All right.
Oh, you used to read baggies. Let's not say you didn't.
Oh yeah, I don't know what, I can't remember. It's
that basically ran away from the world.
There were some meltdowns on that board.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
And they were all sets.
I'm surprised. We actually can we do a caveat on Baggy Sport of Doom or whatever? Bruce actually paid to keep that site going.
Yep.
While FedEx was going, just for FedEx. Who does that?
Yeah.
Only Bruce.
Only Bruce. That's right.
Anyway, sorry, Paul.
Also, by the way, somewhere on that board at one point in time, I probably where the real heat, Burnt went at Bruce. So I went at Burnt. And when I say I went at Burnt, like he went at Bruce. So I eviscerated him.
I remember. And you wonder why we can't have friends.
Listen, he was unfair to our guy, and our guy was the one keeping everything going.
And all of a sudden, everything's $11 billion.
That's right. Suddenly, there's hate. I don't know.
Instead of free.
That's right.
I don't know how it gets that way, but there you go. Maybe that's a whole podcast for another day.
Yeah, that we might circle back to that because we could talk about that one.
Maybe we can have Bill recircumvent, the website and the posts that are hidden now, but maybe we can. It'd be great reading for everybody to go back.
Be entertaining
and
for
see.
sure. All right, Paul, keep it coming.
Yeah. So continuing on. you guys didn't completely drag me off my train of thought.
Wasn't that hard?
Yeah, BOD. Somebody says the BOD is still alive.
Yeah, Price said he saw it recently.
It is. It's still there.
What'd you say?
He said it's still there.
It's still there.
Okay. Wow. Well, we gotta go. Hit it.
Another guy from C-Slam was Thrill, who, when he was playing, was awesome, and then just completely lost interest in playing that type of game at all, and just disappeared.
Yeah.
It would be hard to start that because I don't even know how I can get a hold of that guy again.
What I'm learning though about this Fed you're putting together is that it's going to be amazing for 4 hours, and then nothing is ever going to happen again.
And now it's gonna be hung up on a tree, hanging
Right.
from a tree.
They're going to hang him upside down and leave.
That's funny because I was actually going to name, Alan Scott because, at least he'll be more active than Ed.
Hey, listen, Ed was active. It doesn't take a lot of work to write "I punch you in the face."
Yeah, that's nice. What's that, 4 words? 5? Does that count as a post in FedEx?
I'll answer when you get the right number of words.
It's true.
Voice to text, Paul. Let's go. Who else you got?
So a lot of them are alts for other guys that I actually like better than their original characters. You know what? I prefer reading Haley to reading XS.
Oh, okay.
And I would pick Haley to be an effect, even though I know females are supposed to be forbidden. I give Price a pass.
I don't know if they're supposed to be. They just should be.
Yeah, well,
No, you're right. I mean, when Haley was going at it, like seriously going at it, like for Stable Wars or something like that, Jason put his effort into it for sure, and it was good reading, no doubt.
well
All this dead air list of yours is driving me
completely
flat.
lost my
Let's
train
go.
of thought on this. Let's just.
Should I
completely
wrote your
lost my
list too?
train of thought on this. Huh?
I said, sure, I wrote your list too. Let's go.
Seriously, I don't have it written down, Tim. So
All right. Any others that you really want to get in before we wrap this piece up?
Yeah.
No, you're good.
yeah.
All right. So here's my last question, guys. Let's close out with this question since we don't have an Ask XS segment because Price was too lame to actually get on the call with us. Who do we need to get on the podcast that we have not had on the podcast yet? Who would you like to see? You can only pick one.
Oh, I want Vandenberg on the podcast.
Maximum Michael Gold, the masked jobber.
Yep,
Okay.
for sure.
I can't
One,
pick
he
one.
doesn't. You can't pick one.
I can't
Tim
pick
gets
one.
special
Pick
privilege,
4.
guys.
I don't care.
We did
You
so
give-
much work together. He gets. To
I'm
make his own.
telling you, you put the Wyld Stallionz on this podcast, you're going to get record numbers, and we're going to be okay.
Wouldn't you love to have them both on at the same time?
Yes.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Give me Valentine and Osiris on at the same time.
I would love to do that.
Entertaining.
I'm
Absolutely.
I
have to
think
figure out-
Benny and Hojo should be on at the same time.
That
Just
sounds
to
like
drive you insane, Jeff.
Well, it
sounds like a train wreck.
Although the right number of beers in, and Benny is a perfect podcast presence. Too few or too many,
Come on, Benny.
it tips a different way.
Maybe Benny and I need to get together. We'll figure it out.
Oh, all right. Listen, Gary, you uttered the name that should not
Gary,
be
that's
uttered.
a big fat no.
That's a.
That's
I mean,
bad.
we already didn't like you, Gary. Now we really don't like you.
Gary, why don't you have him on your radio show?
That's right. We can tell him where your house is. Why doesn't he come for a visit or a weekend? All right. Okay. Do you have anybody else, or was that your answer? You just needed to get both of them on it there, Tim.
No, that's it. That's truly my answer. When I sat down and I looked at everything, it was like looked at who was probably available.
Yeah.
Give me Val, give me Osiris. That would be a classic, and people would tune in for that.
Yeah, I think
Because,
so too.
and then they're two glue kind of wrestlers that just gelled together and then played so well with each other and played so well with everybody else. It'd be great to pick their brains off of some of the
Because I'd
stuff.
like them to be on the podcast in character.
So I will say I had the challenge of dealing with a Weedman versus Valentine King of Wrestling match. And man, and Osiris was the perfect foil. And I think Val got over, if I remember correctly, and I might not. I legitimately remember it being a really compelling match. And I feel like Val's interplay with Osiris really helped him on that. At least that's how my memory goes. Who knows if it's actually accurate? I drink a lot of bourbon, so it may not be. So we're going to wrap up with that. Guys, I love that we got to do this. I'm so glad you guys were able to get on. We got a fantastic turnout. Weedy's telling me that he won that match, not Valentine, which might be true. Like, I totally can't remember it.
Hey, Weedy, it's great to see you from the dead, man. Don't be a stranger.
I will say this before we wrap up. Guys, I didn't say this before. I often don't think about it, but there's tons of players that we talk about or should be talking about or who are still around that maybe should come on the podcast. Make sure that you take this and share it, or if the guys in the Wrestle group don't know that we do these live streams in the FedEx group, like, guys, the games are dead. Like, there's no animosity. There's no us versus them mentality. Like, it's all of us who played the game together. I can only live stream to one location. This is where I do it, but share it there or invite them to come. Make sure that you tell them that Tim is commissioning in FedEx again. Like, Lars is running some stuff.
Let's go. Let's go.
Let's see what's going to go on. And if you're in for a tournament, King of Wrestling style, then get on that board on the OOC and say, I'm in for the tournament. Let's do it. Let's show up and spread the word. Tell people we're going to do this. Tell people if they reach out to me and say, I'd like to be on, I'll find time to have them on. We can do something like this.
We'll do one Fed a month until we put something big together just to see what activity we got.
Right.
One card a month.
Exactly. Hey, so this has been the Federation X podcast, running on tangents. Thank you everybody for joining the live stream. What a great turnout. How much fun it was to see you guys talking while we were talking. We will talk to everybody again soon. See you guys.
Absolutely.
Later.